What does it take to achieve a lasting peace? For over a decade, the peace process between the Philippine government and the MILF faced challenges that tested trust, resilience, and the will to negotiate. Let us revisit the second phase of this journey, a chapter marked by international collaborations, controversial agreements, and the pursuit of understanding amid conflict. Good afternoon, everyone. We are the presenter of the second phase of peace process, and I am Riza Joy Gupta, and I will be discussing the second phase and the Memorandum of Agreement on Ancestral Domain. So, the second phase marked renewed efforts toward peace following earlier setbacks and the 2000 all-out war under the presidency of Joseph Estrada. The stage was defined by diplomatic negotiations, confidence-building measures, and international involvement. The second phase of the peace negotiations between the government of the Republic of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front began in 2001. It marked the involvement of international players, particularly Malaysia, which acted as the primary third-party facilitator. During this period, the talks moved beyond discussions of ceasefire and rehabilitation. So one of the most important topic of the substantive issues was about the ancestral domain. Key mechanisms were also established, such as the International Contact Group, which tasked with maintaining trust and confidence between the negotiating parties. Additionally, the mandates of the ceasefire mechanism, like the International Monitoring Team and the Ad Hoc Joint Action Group, were renewed during this time, especially after the resumption of negotiations in December 2009. So let's move to a crucial point of the second phase, which is the Memorandum of Agreement on Ancestral Domain. So the MOA Act was a proposed agreement between the GRP and the MILF. It aimed to address long-standing issues surrounding the Bangsamoro people's claim to ancestral domain in Mindanao. The MOA Act was intended to establish the Bangsamoro Juridical Entity, or the BJP, granting the Bangsamoro people greater autonomy and recognizing their ancestral lands. So the MOA Act was finalized and initialed on July 27, 2008, and was scheduled for signing on August 5, 2008 in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This agreement was seen as a significant step forward because it addressed the issue of ancestral domain, a key concern for the Bangsamoro people. However, the signing never took place. On the same day, the Supreme Court issued a temporary restraining order due to serious objections from local government, local officials, civil society groups, and stakeholders in the affected areas. Many feared that the agreement might compromise national sovereignty and territorial integrity. The decision not to sign the MOA Act triggered violent reactions. Rude elements of the MILF launched attacks on civilian communities in several areas in Mindanao, leading to widespread displacement and unrest. The situation escalated further when Malaysia withdrew its contingent from the International Monitoring Team in November 2008. Despite these setbacks, back-channel negotiations eventually resumed. So by July 2009, the GRP issued a suspension of military operations, or the SOMO, while the MILF declared a suspension of military actions, or the SOMA, to pave the way for renewed dialogue. So it is important to remember that the MOA Act was not intended to be the final peace agreement. Rather, it was meant to be a framework that for addressing ancestral domain issues as Tripoli Agreement alongside security mechanisms in rehabilitation and development. Even if the MOA had been signed, further discussion would have been required to define the mechanisms and modalities for governance in the Bangsamoro region. So that is all, and now we will proceed to the discussion of the Sabah dispute.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lando J.D. Macanya, and I'll be discussing a brief overview of the Sabah dispute. This presentation will cover the key historical events, the competing claims of the Philippines and Malaysia, and the current status of the issue. Ang Sabah dispute isang matagal na alitan sa teritoryo sa pagitan ng Malaysia at Pilipinas. Ay mananatiling hindi nalulutas, parehong bansa ay may magkaibang pananaw sa pagiging lehitimo ng kanilang mga pag-aakit sa Sabah. Isang estado na matatagpuan na nilagang silangan ng isla ng Borneo. Ang ugat ay nagsimula noong 1878 na ibinigay ng Sultan ng Sulu na naghaharing bahagi ng Pilipinas ang kontrol sa Sabah. Sa isang British trading company, ang Pilipinas ay bilang kahalili ng sultanato ay nakaangkin na ang kasunduan ay isang pag-uupa. Samantalang ang Malaysia ay nagsasabi na ito ay isang pagbibigay, ibig sabihin ay ililipat ang pagmamayari. Lalo tumindi ang alitan noong 1963 nang ang Sabah ay naging bahagi ng Malaysia. Kasunod ng ibang referendum, tinanggihan ng Pilipinas ang mga resulta at patuloy na nagpahayag ng kanilang pag-aangkin. Sa paglipas ng mga taon, ang alitan ay humantong sa mga diplomatic tension, legal battle at maging sa mga pagsalakay ng militar. Ang Pilipinas ay gumawa ng ilang mga pagtatangka upang dalhin ang isyu sa International Court of Justice, ngunit patuloy na tumanggi ang Malaysia. Noong 2013, tumindi sa alitan ng isang grupo ng mga armadong tagasunod ng nag-aangking Sultan ng Sulu ang pumasok sa Sabah na inaangkin ito bilang kanilang karapat-dapat na teritoryo. Ang pagsalakay ay sinalubong ng isang matinding tugon mula sa mga otoridad ng Malaysia na humantong sa isang patayan na nagresulta sa mga casualty sa magkabilang panig. Ang pangyayaring ito ay nagdulot ng malaking pag-aalala sa relasyon ng dalawang bansa. Ang Malaysia ay naglunsad ng malawakang operasyon upang maibalik ang kontrol sa Sabah, habang ang Pilipinas ay nagpahayag ng pagkumbinsa ng pagsalakay at hiniling ang uglaya ng mga nahuli. Sa kabila ng patuloy na mga tensyon, pareho ang Malaysia at ang Pilipinas ay naghahangad na mapanatili ang isang matatag na relasyon, lalo na sa loob ng balangkas ng Asia. Ang dalawang bansa ay nagtulungan din sa pagtugon sa mga karaniwang banta sa seguridad tulad ng teroristong grupo ng Abu Sayyaf. Ang Sabah dispute ay isang komplikadong issue na may mahabang kasaysayan at maraming mga salip na nakaka-impluwensya dito. Ang mga pag-aangkin ng parehong bansa ay nakabatay sa mga legal na argumento at historical evidence. Ang paglutas ng alitan ay nangangailangan ng malalim na pag-unawa sa mga isyu at ng isang maingat na proseso ng negosasyon. Gayunpaman, ang Sabah dispute ay nanatiling isang sensitibong issue na may potensyal na muling sumabog. Ang kawalan ng isang tiyak na resolusyon ay patuloy na naglalagay ng anino sa bilateral na relasyon sa pagitan ng Malaysia at Pilipinas. Yun lang.
Good day, everyone. Today, I will discuss the framework agreement on the Bangsamoro. So, this agreement is not only primarily addresses the historical evident struggles on more people, but also the foundation for a better future through comprehensive and strategic provisions. So, for the decades, Mindanao has been marked by armed conflict rooted in the Bangsamoro people's struggle for self-determination. Various peace like the 1976 Tartaglia Agreement and the 1996 Final Peace Agreement sought to resolve these issues but left gaps that needed addressing. This led to the formation of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front or the MIFF, which continued the fight for autonomy. The signing of the FAD or the Framework Agreement on Bangsamoro is on October 15, 2012, brought in mind hope. It marked a turning point in the peace process under the leadership of Benigno Aquino III. When Aquino said that the arm is a failed experiment, he highlighted the inability to deliver on its promise of autonomy, peace, and development. His administration sought to address these failures by introducing the reforms of CAB and the FAB, which led from the creation of BARD, a political entity designed to avoid the mistakes of the past and offer hope for a more inclusive, prosperous Bangsamoro region. So, this agreement has its supported by several annexes, and it is important. So, the first is the Annex on Transitional Modalities and Agreements. So, this agreement is the first aspect, means transitioning to ARM, transitioning the BTA or the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, and transfer of power through governmental seats. This annex outlines by step-by-step process for transitioning from ARM to BARM, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. So, it establishes the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, which oversees the transition of power and responsibilities during the transition period. Next is the second aspect. So this is we call the Annex on Revenue Generation and Wealth Sharing. This aspect is that the generation and wealth resources of the Moro people will be taxed and will be taxed. Same time, both the government and Moro people benefits the taxes. So the third annex is the annex on the annex on the normalization. So the third annex is the power sharing. So in this third aspect of agreement is that justice system will be division from central government. It also specific no separate education system and the Sharia justice. Next is the fourth aspect of agreement. We call it the annex on normalization. So the fourth is plans on rehabilitation to affected communities to armed conflicts. So the last is the addendum on the Bangsamoro Waters Road and joint cooperation. The joint cooperation of Bangsamoro Waters, which is on the sector of agricultural fishing, furthers both the Moro people and neighboring communities. So what is literal FAB? So what's on the FAB? FAB is the creation of the Bangsamoro, a new political entity to replace the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. It is built on the mutual understanding and compromise the government of the Philippines and the MILF, addressing the political economy, economic and social issues that have fluid conflict. The FAB has its significant and challenges. The FAB and its annexes represent a groundbreaking step toward achieving peace in Mindanao. It acknowledges the Bangsamoro people's right to self-determination while ensuring inclusivity for other groups. It has already led to the creation of the Bangsamoro Organic Law or the BUL in 2018, which fully operationalized in BARD. So, in the conclusion in framework agreement on the Bangsamoro and its annexes is that it serves as a comprehensive blueprint for peace and development. It addresses the political, economic, the social issues, and while emphasizing inclusivity and shared governance, this agreement reminds us of the importance of dialogue and compromise and resolving conflicts. Let us support the initiatives that ensure the lasting peace, stability, and prosperity in Mindanao and the entire Philippines.
Good afternoon, everyone, especially you, Ma'am. My name is Chloe B. Borres, and I will be discussing about the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro. The Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro, or CAB, is an important agreement that promotes lasting peace in the Bangsamoro region, marking the end of 17 long years of peace negotiations and decades of conflict. This agreement brings restoration of the identity, power, land resource of the Bangsamoro. It does not only promises but guarantees mutual recognition. It does not only promises but guarantees mutual recognition, respect, and restoration of the legitimate rights of the people in the Bangsamoro, according to the chairperson of the MILF, Chairman Al-Haj Murad Ibrahim. This agreement aims to fix the past mistakes, give more independence to the Bangsamoro people, and create a plan for the region's future development and peace. The CAB is a major step in healing the wounds of the conflict and building a peaceful and stable community, which led to the creation of the BRFM, or the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, a new autonomous and democratic political entity in 2019 as stipulated under the Republic Act No. 11054, or also known as the Bangsamoro Organic Law.
So the Bangsamoro people, primarily residing in the southern Philippines, they have a long history of struggles for self-determination. This struggle resulted from their distinct cultural, historical, and religious identity, as well as their experiences of marginalization and discrimination. So the second phase of the Philippine peace process, it aimed to address these grievances and find a lasting solution to the conflict. So, what is right to self-determination? Ito ay tumutukoy sa karapatan ng isang grupo ng mga tao na magpasya sa kanilang sariling kapalaran, kabilang ang kanilang pagpolitikang katayuan at paraan ng pamumuhay. So, in the context of peace process in Bangsamoro, ang karapatan sa pagpapasya sa sarili ay nangangahulugan na ang Bangsamoro ay ang karapatang magpasya sa kanilang sariling hinaharap, kabilang ang kanilang pampolitikang katayuan at paraan ng pamamahala sa kanilang rehiyon. So, the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro, or the CAB, signed in 2014, explicitly
recently acknowledged the fairness and legitimacy of the Bangsamoro people's cause. This recognition is a significant step forward as it validates their aspirations for political autonomy. The agreement aims to safeguard the Bangsamoro people's identity and cultural heritage. This includes recognizing their unique history, language, customs, and ensuring that future generations can preserve their cultural identity.
Assalamualaikum, and I am Rishifa Aminog, and I will be tackling about the Marawi Siege. Now, what is Marawi Siege? Marawi Siege, or the Battle of Marawi, is a conflict between the Philippine government security forces and the militant or the Mauti group affiliated with Islamic State of Iraq and then Lebanon, or the ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, a Sunni jihadist group with a particular violent ideology. This battle was 5 months long and become the longest urban battle in the Philippines. So, this started on May 23, 2017. After receiving a report, the security forces attempt to arrest Isnilon Hapilon, the leader of Basilan-based Abu Sayyaf faction in Marawi City, recognized in an ISIS publication, Al-Naba, as a member of Islamic forces in the Philippines. Hapilon had apparently arrived in the Philippines, or Llano del Sur, on December 16, with the authority to consolidate the pro-ISIS alliance with the Mauti brothers who had been staging also a large ever attacks in and around Buti. This attempt to arrest Isnilon Hapilon led the alliance to launch ahead of schedule the plan of assault on the city. So, hundreds of gunmen under Hapilon and the Mauti brother command poured into the street, taking hostages, the battling soldier, and other Mauti group fighter from surrounding areas who had not participated in initial attack arrived through both from Lake Lanao. As a militant took shelter and several homes within the city, including the government hospital, the city jails, and also set a fire in St. Mary Cathedral, Ninoy Aquino School, and the Dansalan College. So, the Philippine Armed Forces conducted airstrike on militant fortress that result heavily damaged and center of the city, and more than 1,130 people died, and some 1,400 were wounded, and even forces the residents from Marawi and nearby town to flee or to evacuate. So Marawi siege was actually an unusual part because of an international dimension. The Dawla Islamiyah reportedly sought to seize Marawi in order to gain a recognition from ISIS global leadership. Philippine security officials believe that the siege aimed to fulfill two requirements for recognition as an ISIS province. First is the controlling the territory, and the second is unifying a local jihadist ground forces, jihadist ground in ISIS cause. And according to former Armed Forces Chief of Staff General Eduardo Anyo said that the ISIS gave Mauti group at least 1.5 million for fund of Marawi siege. So the Dawla Islamiyah also exploit the chaotic and political situation in Marawi before the siege. Marawi had a high level of violent crime and reputations as the center of Muslim Mindanao drug trade, and there are mayors that named as narco politicians are related with Mauti clan, and also the family of those who associated with the MILF politicians include the vice governor of the province and the mayor of Butig, where the Maputi group reportedly clashed with the armed forces in 2016. So the local political dimension of the crisis in Marawi is obscure, but army officers, politicians, residents, and the former Dawla Islamiyah fighters acknowledge it as a factor. So Dawla Islamiyah recruits appear to exploit a wide array of agreements. That indeed the mainstream of political violence in Muslim Mindanao derive mostly from other local factors, notably violent competition among the powerful clan for including via elected office. So passage of the organic law, moving to passage of the organic law difficult and slow and based by year, delay and outbreak if violence. Now the MILF warned already the local frustrations with delay in the peace process was fueling the jihadist militancy and strengthening armed group outside the peace process, which are the ISIS or the ISL. So under the banner of Dawla Islamiyah, a name that translated as Islamic State, an alliance between some of this group demonstrate unexpected capability to seize the part of Marawi. And holding against the forces from May and early October in 2017, the shock of the battle in Marawi, the largest engagement by armed forces of the Philippines since the MILF arguments that further delay would be benefit militant and help also propel the organic law passage in the Congress. So President Rodrigo Roa Duterte placed Mindanao, the 27 provinces and 23 cities under martial law in the first day of the siege. This is a 60 days, but unlike Ferdinand Marcos martial law that notwithstanding memories of the military abuses, so at this time, in Rodrigo Roa Duterte time, military has sought to strengthen local government and most evident an increased number of checkpoints, greater military presence, and curfew for safety. So martial law become necessary because of existing terrorism law is inadequate. So indeed, this Marawi siege or the Battle of Marawi was believed to be a barrier in an ongoing peace process between the government of the Philippines. And the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, on the other hand, this siege helped to propel the organic law passage in Congress.
So, Roger, when I was reading Siluala, and I will be discussing about the Bangsamoro Transition Commission. So, ang Bangsamoro Transition Commission ay itinatag noong Disyembre 2012 sa bisa ng Executive Order 120 na nilataan ng dating Pangulo Benigno Aquino III. Layunin ito gumawa ng draft ng Bangsamoro Basic Law or BBL alinsunod sa Framework Agreement on the Bangsamoro or FAB that was signed between the Government of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front in October 2012. So first, ano nga ba ang Bangsamoro Basic Law? So ang Bangsamoro Basic Law ang magsisilbing batas na magtataguyod sa Bangsamoro Political Entity. Ito ang magtatagda ng kapangyarihan, struktura at pamahalaan ng Bangsamoro. Sa ilalim ng administrasyon ni Pangulo Benigno Aquino III, the BTC was composed of 15 members. 8 of the members were nominated by the MILF, while 7 of the members were nominated by the government. In its 15 members, 3 communities were represented in its commission, such as the Muslim, the Christians, and the
indigenous peoples. The members of the Commission shall draft the Bangsamoro Basic Law and confirm it into the peace agreement which is signed between the government of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. So, what are the principles that is adopted by the BDC in drafting the Basic Law? First, the BDCs should work as one body sharing a common vision for the peace and progress of the Bangsamoro region, which will be embodied in the Basic Law. Second, the BDC should encourage popular participation in drafting the Basic Law through public hearings and consultations to ensure the inclusion of concerns and support for the law by its stakeholders. And third, the Basic Law should benefit all the people of the Bangsamoro, such as the Muslim, the Christians, the indigenous peoples, and the residents, settlers within the territory of the Bangsamoro. So, the Bangsamoro Transition Commission drafted the first version of the Bangsamoro Basic Law in 2016. However, it has failed to pass the legislative bill over the low public support following the Bangsamoro incidents. The Duterte administration continued the process by creating a more inclusive Bangsamoro Transition Commission that will redraft the BBL. President Duterte signed Executive Order Number 8 increasing the number of the BDC from 15 to 21 to include the representative from the MLF and other stakeholders. And in July 2017, the BDC turned over to President Duterte a newly drafted BBL. So the BBL was later released, and a year later, the BBL was passed into law as the Bangsamoro Organic Law, which will be further discussed with the next report. So for the continuation, the BDC was to be established upon ratification. So ratification means the official way to confirm something usually by vote. So the BDC was to be established upon ratification according to relevant executive orders that continue as a transition body of the new Bangsamoro Autonomous Region by the version of Section 5 of Article Number 17 of the BOL until the constitution of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority. So, in conclusion, the Bangsamoro Transition Commission plays an important role in promoting peace, unity, and development of the Bangsamoro region. Its mandate to draft the Bangsamoro Basic Law is a significant step toward establishing a more inclusive government that recognizes the rights of all communities and all communities. So that's all. Pleasant afternoon against all. I am Kenneth Latini, and for our next topic, I will be discussing about the Republic Act number 11054, mostly known as the Bangsamoro Organic Law or BOL. So Bangsamoro Organic Law is a significant piece of legislation here in our country as it is part of the peace process. It was also part of the political legislative track of the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro Peace Agreement, which was signed in 2014 between the Philippine government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front or MILF, advancing for peace and development in Mindanao. So, this law established the governance and political structure of BARM in recognition of the justice and legitimacy of the cause of the Bangsamoro people and the aspirations of Muslim Filipinos and all the indigenous cultural communities. So, on July 26, 2018, it was signed into law by our former President Rodrigo Duterte and was ratified in a two-part plebiscite in January and February 2019. So when we say plebiscite, it is the direct vote from all the members of an electorate or in a specific area where individuals are entitled to vote for an important public question, such as change in the Constitution. So that's according to English Filipino Dictionary. So, nagkaroon nga ng pagboto noong January 21, 2019 kung saan ang mga probinsya na sakop ng Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or ARM, ang Maguindanao, Lanao del Sur, Basilan, Sulu, at Tawi-Tawi, mga residente ng Isabela City sa Basilan at sa Cotabato City ay bumoto kung nais ba nila makasama sa BARM. 16 days naman pagkatapos ng unang botohan noong February 6, 2019 ay sumunod na bumoto ang mga residente na sakop ng Lanao del Norte at 6 na bayan ng North Cotabato. So after the BOL was accepted and plebiscites, the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM was created and formally replaced ARM. In the picture presented right here, the BARM consists of predominantly Muslim provinces, which are the Lanao del Sur, Maguindanao, Basilan, Tawi-Tawi, and we also have here the 63 barangays of Cotabato province. So, actually, the Sulu province was once part of the said region, but recently, on September 9, 2024, as the Supreme Court upheld the validity of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, they also declared the province of Sulu not part of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao after the province rejected the law's ratification. So the decision was penned by Senior Associate Justice Marvic M.V.F. Leonet, Justice Jopar B. Maampaw filed a separate concurring opinion. So, some of the provisions of BOL include the establishment of the BARM. So, the BOL establishes the BARM as an autonomous region within the Philippine Republic. Number 2, territorial jurisdiction. The BOL specifies the geographical boundaries of the BARM. Number 3, self-governance. The law grants the BARM a degree of self-governance, allowing it to make decisions on a wide range of matters. Fiscal autonomy. The BOL provides for fiscal autonomy, enabling the BARM to generate and manage its own revenue sources. Natural resources. The law aims to ensure that the region benefits from its natural wealth. Security arrangements. The BOL addresses security concerns in the region that aims to maintain peace and order while respecting the region's autonomy. Social services. The law prioritizes the provision of social services, including education, health, and social welfare programs to improve the lives of the Bangsamoro people. And lastly, the indigenous people's rights. The law recognizes and protects the rights of indigenous peoples within the BARM, ensuring their cultural identity and self-determination. So overall, the peace process and the establishment of BARM represent a significant step towards realizing the Bangsamoro people's aspirations for self-determination and a more peaceful future for them. So, let's move on to the next topic, which is all about the public land law and the settlement in Mindanao. As we all know, Mindanao has a complex history of land disputes and conflicts often rooted in land ownership issues and the displacement of indigenous communities. During the American colonial period, laws about public land were enacted, and one of it is the Public Land Act No. 926 of 1903. So this law established the framework for the distribution and disposition of public land here in the Philippines. As you can see here in the table provided, it is the hectares allowed for the homesteaders, non-Christian Moors and Wall tribes, and the corporations. As for the homesteaders, these were individuals who received land for personal cultivation and settlement. The allotted land area for them increased from 16 areas in 1903 to 24 hectares in 1919, then decreased to 16 hectares in 1936. As for the non-Christian tribes, they were granted smaller land allotment compared to homesteaders. In 1993, there was no provision for them, and in 1919, the initial allotment was 10 hectares, which was reduced to 4 hectares in 1936. As for the corporations, they were allowed to acquire larger land areas. The allotment for them remained constant at 1,024 hectares throughout the period. If you look at this table closely, land inequality is evident as it highlights the unequal land distribution and prioritization of the corporations over those individual settlers, particularly those from non-Christian community. So let's move on to the next, which is all about the resettlement case in Cotabato, specifically focusing on the resettlement of different ethnic groups over time. So, resettlement case of Cotabato was a significant turning point in Mindanao, specifically for Muslims and indigenous population. So, the resettlement program brought in a large number of Christian settlers from the north that led to population shift, with Muslims becoming a minority in the region. So, in the table presented right here, it shows the population shift in Cotabato from 1918 to 1970. So, in 1918, number of towns had a majority of Moro population, 50% or more, and there were only fewer towns with a majority of Lumad or settler population. In 1939, the number of towns with Moro population decreased, while on the other hand, the number of towns with a majority of settler population increased. So, in 1970, right here in the middle, shift occurred as for the number of towns with majority of settler population increased, while the number of towns with majority of Moro and Lumad population significantly decreased. To sum up, this table shows the complex history marked by population shifts in Cotabato, which lead to the application of its region to land conflicts, demographic changes, etc. So, let's move on to the next and last topic, which is all about the population change in Mindanao. Mindanao experienced a significant population growth from 1980 to 1970, specifically the changes of population of the Muslim and Lumad population, driven by factors such as the government settlement program during the American period that encouraged migration from the people of Luzon and Visayas, agricultural potential, and etc. So, as you can see in the table right there presented, the total population of Mindanao increased over the years, reflecting natural growth and migration. As for the Muslim population, it increased, but the percentage decreased slightly, suggesting a slower growth rate. So, while on the other hand, the Lumad population increased, but the percentage of the total population decreased significantly, indicating a decline in their relative proportion within the region. So, overall, understanding this population changes in Mindanao and the history of Mindanao is important for us to gain a better knowledge and understanding about the history of Mindanao. So before we end this report, I would like to say about the summary. Also, the second phase of the peace process showed us the potential of dialogue and the fragility of trust. Now, a question I want to ask. If peace requires compromise, how much are we truly willing to give it for the last? Thank you and mabuhay.